Uncage, reunify, and heal.
Uncage, reunify, and heal.
Buenos días. Estamos en Washington, D.C. Good morning. We're here in Washington, D.C. We're the Caravana por los Niños, accompanied by our local allies, CARECEN D.C., Community Change Action, and also Pasitos Gigantes from Washington State. So thank you everyone for being here today, especially to the Bay Area people tuning in through the live stream. We're here today in Washington, D.C. to say uncage, reunify, and heal the children separated by zero tolerance policy. 4 years later, there are still more than 1,000 children who remain separated from their families. That is not acceptable. So we're here to say, ya basta, time's up, make sure these children are reunified. Our first speaker today, my name is Larissa Dugan Cuadra. I'm the Executive Director of the Central American Resource Center, CARECEN in San Francisco. And we're very happy here to also have our CARECEN sister in Washington, D.C., who has supported us in the organizing of this event today. So thank you again, CARECEN D.C., for your support and your warm welcome. Next up will be Olga Talamante. She's a co-chair of the Caravana por los Niños, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how this effort was born and why we're here today.
Buenos días, mi gente. Buenos días, Washington, D.C. Buenos días, wherever you are listening to us, wherever you are following us. The Caravan for the Children is here from the San Francisco Bay Area in Washington, D.C. to call on President Biden and the task force, which was set up to be the task force for the reunification of the families. They were set up a year ago.
Testing.
We're asking them to do their job. It is in their
mic
job
check, mic
title.
check.
The
How does that
reunification
sound
of
for the mic
families.
people?
And work for the 1,228
Mic check, mic
children
check.
that have been separated
Yes,
since
we're good.
2018.
You're good?
Yeah.
That is
All right, so I think we
too
should get
long
started, y'all.
for children to be separated from their loved ones. So that's why our slogan is uncage, reunify, and heal, because we must make sure that the
Before we
children and the
start,
families
can we
are
just take a
healed from
photo?
these years of trauma that has
And
been
actually,
caused
even if
by
you
these
guys can
policies.
just run over there real quick.
Yes.
More than
Everyone,
5,000
everyone
children
run,
were taken
including
from their
Juan.
parents
We're taking a picture, Henry.
since
Henry, hold on, we're
2017
taking a
and
picture.
2021.
Everyone.
And again, we still have over 1,200 that remain
Oh,
separated.
si vienes con
So President Biden set up the task force, and that includes the heads of the Department of Homeland
Okay.
Security,
I've got you got
Department
it's
of Health
very
and
heavy
Human
leaned on this
Services,
side. We
the
need balance on this
Justice
side.
Department, and the State Department. They're some of the most
no,
powerful agencies
check, mic
in
check.
the government. They should be
Okay.
able to reunify 1,200
1,
children,
2,
don't you think?
3.
And here we have children that are representing those children.
Ready?
They are
1,
with us,
2, 3.
with their families, with their loved ones, as those children should be. So we celebrate the fact that the task force has reunified about 200 children. We're glad they're doing that. Let's get the other 1,200 done. That's what
So,
we're here
compañeras,
for, and that's what we
especially
ask you
quería
to join
presentarle
in this
colegas a Isaías,
campaign
que
that we've been
viene-
holding now for 2 years. And we are here with thousands of voices uniting with us from the online petition and from postcards that have been signed throughout the last month. So we are not here alone. We're here with all of you. Muchas gracias.
Uncage, reunify, and heal. Uncage, reunify, and heal. Next up, we have Gloria Romero, Executive Director of Instituto Familiar de la Raza, which is a mental health organization, a pillar institution in San Francisco, working and receiving the families and the children, helping them through their healing process. And she's going to talk about one of our demands. A key demand is that the United States government be responsible and accountable for the healing from this trauma for the children and their families. So let's give a warm welcome to Gloria Romero.
Buenos días a Washington D.C. y todos que nos están escuchando virtually. I am here, as Larissa said, I'm also the co-chair of the Caravan for the Children, and as a healing organization.
And Henry!
Here, Instituto Familiar de la Raza, and no one can deny
Live, right?
We're live, yeah.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's okay. We're
No one can deny
we have
the harm caused by the United States zero tolerance policy. It's undeniable. And we know that the majority of the United States population feels it is morally necessary to reunite children with their families and to begin to repair the harm that has been caused. It takes one day to rip a child apart from their family, but how long does it take to heal from that trauma? That horrifying traumatic experience has long-standing effects for the child and for the family that goes on for a lifetime.
so live, Henry.
And we demand the allocation of the necessary resources in support of families' healing. President Biden himself called family separation criminal during his presidential election campaign. He vowed to bring humanity back to the asylum system. Yet, in December of 2021, President Biden abruptly stopped settlement negotiations with separated families and left families in legal limbo, vulnerable to deportation, and without access to permanent legal immigration status. And despite court rulings that require the United States to reunify families and to provide rehabilitative services, families continue to be separated. They don't have access to health care, and they have not received the reparations that they have the right to from the United States government. President Biden and the task force, your time is up. Do your job. Bring accountability and transparency to the children's reunification process now. Thank you.
¿Qué queremos?
Reunification.
¿Qué queremos?
Reunification.
Uncage, reunify and heal. Uncage, reunify and heal. Next up we have Annie Rivera, Executive Director of Galería La Raza in San Francisco, which has played a critical role in our campaign that has been centered around art and around community building and around collaboration. We've had thousands of volunteers and individuals in the Bay Area express their concern for this tragedy, for this crime committed against children by the U.S. government. So Annie Rivera is going to come and talk to us about the role of art in this campaign. Welcome, Annie.
Buenos días.
Am I on? Can you hear?
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here at the People's House, even though we cannot access it, but they better hear our message. And we bring a message that is really centered around art and love. We know the role that art has played in our communities. It has been the focal point and the form of expression that documents into history our struggles, our challenges, our dreams, our joys. And in this campaign, art has been centered. It has supported the 6,500 people that have signed the petition, whether the postcard or the petition. They have been moved because not only the story, I mean, the story is the children, but it's the art that's also important that they've been engaging with. We've been telling the story not only through the quilt project that was created with literary artists, it also was song, the songbirds, which include Francisco Herrera, Liliana Herrera, and Diana Gameros, around the separation, the cruel separation, and how we wanted to send a message of love. I want to just say that, you know, in creating the quilt project are the posters that we're seeing everyone hold up right now. It's a message that directly takes, you know, images of the children that were incarcerated, they've been separated, they had been detained, and really it's offering an alternative. We are responsible for healing these children in the long term, and we want to make sure that we continue to spread that message. We want to acknowledge the artists whose words are giving exactly that. And I'm going to start with Erika Shilome, Seba Ili, Jesus Iñiguez, Freddy Jesse Izaguirre, Gustavo Barahona Lopez, Kevin Madrigal, Mika Mirangoliota, Flavia Elisa Mora, Marco Pernavare, Dulce Preciado, Rubén Reyes Jr., Mercy Tulis Bucari, Osvaldo Vargas, and Verde. So it is critical that as we move forward, we continue to send a message of love, whether it's visual, literary, song, anything that these children have to hold on to, and to give them joy and to give them hope. I'm going to close with reading of the words of Flavia Elisa Mora, because I think it's critical that we center that as we move forward. Dice, la justicia y libertad corren entrelazadas como raíces más antiguas que las fronteras y resistentes que el arma del opresor. Adelante. We love you kids. We're here. Seguiremos luchando. Tengan fuerza y sí se puede.
¿Qué queremos? Reunificación. ¿Qué queremos? Reunificación. Uncage, reunify and heal. Uncage, reunify and heal. Next speaker is one of our Washington D.C. allies, Catherine Paul from Casa Maryland, Advocacy Manager. We want to acknowledge all the organizers that put in so much work to yesterday's May Day March, and so thank you for welcoming us and for always being great partners here in D.C. You're always welcome to the Bay. Maybe we'll move D.C. to the Bay next year for May 1st. But anyhow, thank you, Catherine, for joining us, and she's going to share a little bit about the work that CASA is doing here in Washington area.
Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me? Good morning. Guys, my name is Kat. I'm so proud and honored to be here today representing CASA. Today is a beautiful day, right? It's a beautiful day for family reunification. I am so proud to be here. Today we were here with over 2,000 people for International Workers' Day. We are powerful. We are strong. Now, we saw 1,228 children are not connected with their families yet. 1,228 is what the report said. So my question is for Biden, what are you going to do about it? Because we're not going to wait until next week, next month, next year. We want our families together now. Not next month, not next year, now. So, here in Maryland, we've just won some really incredible campaigns. We just ended private ICE detention in Maryland. We just made sure that our families have access to driver's licenses. We have worked to make sure we get tax credits for families who need it. And we're going to continue working to create funding for those who are incarcerated in Maryland jails without any access to a lawyer. So we're going to continue this work. But right now we are calling on Biden, we're calling on this administration to do what has to be done and continue to meet the promise that they made us. They promised us. So with that said, I just want to say thank you. The fight continues, and we will continue fighting until the work is done. Thank you so much, everyone.
¿Qué queremos?
Reunification.
¿Qué queremos?
Reunificación.
Uncage, reunify and heal. Uncage, reunify and heal. Next up, we'd like to invite Isaías Guerrero, Senior Organizer at Community Change Action here in Washington, D.C., one of the organizers of yesterday's May Day March. Thank you, Isaías, for joining us.
Sí. All right. It is so good to be here with the CARECEN family, with the CASA family, and immigrant rights fighters, people that are envisioning what it's like to have our families be free, be united, and have liberation. And today we're here to fight for liberation. Liberation is the call that our ancestors have made for us, that cross borders and that keep crossing borders for a better future. Because in our countries, we face difficult conditions and we come seeking asylum, which is a universal human right. And what the United States is doing, the most powerful country in the world, under President Joe Biden, what he is doing is systematically denying the right for people to be free and be safe. We have now seen over 2 million expulsions in the border that have been happening in 3 years of his presidency. 2 million people that are trying to find a better life for themselves and their families. We've heard the stories from all across the world from folks fleeing armed conflict from Congo, Mauritania, Colombia, folks fleeing natural disasters from Guatemala, from Honduras, and we're still hearing how this administration, even though they have the power to unify families, to end policies like Title 42 and MPP, Biden refuses to do so. And this is not only dangerous for the thousands of families that are trying to cross, that are trying to knock the doors of this country, that are actually here right now in the jails, in the detention centers. It is not only dangerous for them, but it's really dangerous for the world, because what President Biden is doing is taking the side of white supremacists. We remember that the zero tolerance policy was instituted by President Trump. President Trump, who categorically has been discriminating against immigrants all across the United States. And those policies continue to be in the books. While President Biden promised us in November that he was going to cancel all of these policies, even though we knocked doors in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Alabama, in Nevada, trying to get the Democrats to win the Senate, trying to get President Biden into office and actually making it so. 2 years into his presidency, and he has yet to deliver on a single promise around citizenship and around family reunification. So that's why we're here right now. For Biden to actually choose the path of liberation and not white supremacy. Because white supremacy is all over the globe. This is the chance for Biden to show what global leadership is about. To show all the other leaders like Bolsonaro, like Le Pen and others that are trying to use anti-immigrant policies to win their elections, that the only way towards freedom and global unity is to open our arms and say, we respect the processes of asylum and we welcome immigrants and refugees into our lands. Of course, in an orderly way, but the United States have the resources to do so. They've done it in the past. So it is time not only to reunite children with their families, which is also an incredible, insensitive, and hurtful types of policies, but it's also time to make sure that everybody that is here trying to ask for asylum does so, because that's the fundamental human right. So we are here to ask for family unity. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? That's right. President Biden, escucha. Estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha. Estamos en la lucha. Biden, escucha. Estamos en la lucha. Thank you so much, y'all.
Ya basta, ya se acabó el tiempo. Time's up, President Biden and Task Force. Do your job, do your task, and make sure the children are reunited with their families, that they're healed, and that they're welcomed into a country that has caused unreparable damage. Next up, we have another ally who's come all the way from Washington State to join yesterday's march, and she is Gabriela Uwin from Hispanic Disability Support, also known as Pasitos Gigantes in Washington. Thank you for joining us, Gabriela.
Good morning. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here among líderes and lideresas. It's a más alto. Okay. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here this morning among all these wonderful leaders for our community. is Gabriela Ewing. I'm coming from Washington State with Hispanic Disability Support, Pasitos Gigantes. Yesterday, due to the government inaction, grassroots and direct impacted community, immigrants leaders from across the country came together demanding a pathway to citizenship to be included in any bill negotiation in Congress that does not include funding for the border, CBP, or ICE, and not to further criminalize and ending detentions and deportations for our immigrant communities. We united forces with a national immigrant rally with immigrants from all over the country that gathered to remind President Biden and members of Congress of the promises they made for a pathway to citizenship, and they ran their campaigns with that promise, and to stop deportations and family separations. See, my story, I was separated from my children. I was separated from my son. He was only a baby. He wasn't even walking. I was detained for 3 months. And that is a separation that causes a struggle. It causes mental health problems. It causes problems through the growth of the child. My child is 20 years old now. Thank God we have been able to do therapy and to overcome many of those struggles, because even though he was a baby, he suffered just like as I suffer. He didn't have his primary care. He didn't have his mother. Today we're here to demand President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas end family separation. It is time. No more family separation. No more. Basta. It is enough. Es suficiente. We're here to demand to stop immediately. Stop Title 42. There is no reason to wait until May 23rd. You can do it right now. Yeah. President Biden, the community is claiming, do something. You promised to do something. You're not doing anything. When are you going to act? We mobilize. We knock doors. We make sure you were elected president. When are you going to act? What do we want? Justicia. What do we want? Justicia. And family separations. All those children need to be reunited with their families, with their loved ones. It is time, and the time is now.
Gracias, Gabriela, por compartir tu historia. Thank you for sharing your story. Like thousands more stories like that. And yes, time is up. Time is up. Reunify, uncage, and heal. Reunify, uncage, and heal. Reunify, uncage, and heal.
Reunify, uncage, and heal.
Our next speaker is going to talk to us about the greater immigration landscape since they're here in Washington, D.C. I'm proud to say that Abel Nunes from CARECEN D.C., also our first CARECEN in the country. Our big sister CARECEN is here, always in solidarity. We work together hand in hand, not only on the domestic justice work in the U.S., but also we work for justice in our countries of origin. So with that, I'm very happy to welcome Abel Nunes, Executive Director of CARECEN D.C.
¿Qué queremos?
Justicia.
¿Qué queremos?
Justicia.
You know, we're living in very tough times, but as a community, we're used to tough times. We persevere. We understand that the Congress is not acting, and they haven't been acting. But we ask the administration to use their authority to make sure that people that are coming, fleeing oppression, can have a safe space in this nation. And when they're doing it, and they separate people, they have a moral imperative to make sure that they bring those people together and that they can correct any of the mistakes that are being done. As we work in our communities to make immigrants welcome. I want to recognize that local communities, local organizations are the ones that are taking the brunt, because immigrants do not live in the federal government. They live in communities. There are our friends, there are our neighbors. They are the ones that send their kids to school systems. So we must work together to solve this issue. Right now, Title 42 is holding people at the border for 2 years. A policy that was used not for health reasons, but really to stop people, brown and black people, from coming into this country and petition for asylum under our laws. There are people here that claim that we are a country of laws. So let's follow the laws that we have in our books. But we will work together to improve the laws that are missing, because we know that 12 million Americans right now do not have legal roads or legal ability to stay in this nation. And we will work to make sure that happens. But we also must be ready to welcome the people that are right now stuck in the border, that need to come and petition this government. They should be allowed to go to our court systems. Biden has the ability to do this. Biden has the ability to ask for a new TPS and protect people that are already here, contributing to this nation and ensuring that our economy comes back strong. We are the backbone of this nation, and we must fight for our immigrants every day. So I ask you again to work with us. But I ask, most importantly, President Biden to use his authority, because he has it. He cannot lend himself to a year of political pressures and elections to make sure that he does not do what is not correct. Currently, locally, we are receiving immigrants that are being sent by Governor Abel, and we will continue to do that to demonstrate that we are a welcoming city, that we care about immigrants, and we want everyone to have a right to have a good life and to follow, as our founding documents say, the pursuit of happiness. So we will work to do this. So let's work together, let's reunite these children, and let's fix our laws so that 12 million people that are in this country can have a pathway to legal permanent residence and then citizenship. Thank you. ¿Qué es lo que queremos?
Justicia.
¿Qué es lo que queremos?
Justicia.
Thank you, Abel. ¿Qué queremos?
Justicia.
¿Qué queremos?
Justicia.
Uncaged, reunify and heal.
Uncaged, reunify and heal.
Uncaged, reunify and heal.
Uncaged, reunify and heal.
We also I want to take a quick moment to honor all the essential workers that carried us through this pandemic. Migrants who are absolutely excluded from any form of COVID relief in one of the hardest times in our living history. Our generation has not seen a time like we have seen with COVID. And the lack of recognition of the essential workers who risk their health is incredibly painful. And it's once again, the U.S. government is in absolute denial of the essential role that migrants play in this country. And we know that wherever migrants go, we improve our communities. We bring our cultural, our social, our work assets. We add so much to the cultural landscape of this nation. We want recognition. ¿Qué queremos? ¿Qué queremos para los migrantes? Y justicia. Next up, we want to bring attention. Thank you to our press corps that is here for joining us. We appreciate it. And we want to highlight in the center of our setup here, one, we have our children who represent what children should be like and living like with their families, with their communities. But we also have in the center a whole bunch of postcards that were hand signed by thousands of Bay Area community members. And next up, I want to invite Claudia Leon from Latinx Racial Equity Project and Angela Ortiz, Program Coordinator for the Chicano Latina Foundation. Both of these organizations are also organizing members of La Caravana, and they're going to share some of the messages that our community in the Bay Area is sending to the White House, to President Biden, and to the Task Force on the Reunification of Children.
Hola, hola. Gracias por estar aquí todos y por Gracias por el apoyo y estamos aquí representando, I'm in Spanish, but we're here representing all of the families, the children, and the people who support and don't want to see this happening anymore. As we know, in the history of the United States, this is not new. Black and brown and indigenous babies have been separated from their mothers since the inception of this country as part of tactics of oppression and injustice and control and colonization. So this is not something new, but it's something we are not going to stand for anymore. And we have 6,500 voices behind us that came with us to DC through the postcards that are signed there and through the online petition. The Bay Area represents the people that signed the postcard, our community and health workers, artists, children and youth, elected officials, mental health specialists, students, faith congregations, and countless individuals who wrote to the task force and are here. We're here representing their message. Across the country, people signed the online campaign. 4,000 plus people signed the petition, and that gives us here some examples of big love and support and appreciation of all the volunteers that helped get this campaign going and who supported it because they also don't believe that this system of oppression in separating children from their mothers is acceptable. Angela is going to share some examples of some of those messages from the community.
Thank you. So I'll be reading some of the messages that were received. So, children should never be taken away from a loving home. It is inhumane and wrong. Justice for those families. Signed by Madeline. Not one child should spend another night apart from their parents. This is unacceptable for our nation. We need to be better. Signed by Adrian. No children should be detained at the border with or without their parents. It is inhumane. I am an immigrant and everyone deserves the right to live their childhood free and be able to dream. Signed by Elena. Families deserve to be together. The world is watching. Please reunite the families. Signed by Dimitri. The core of who I am as an adult today stems from my family and the bond between my mother and I. We must prioritize reuniting these children with their families. Signed by Stephanie. My family fled El Salvador in the 80s during the Civil War. The children from that war are still healing. Stop separating kids from their families. Signed by Fatima. And those are all that we'll be reading today. Thank you.
Thank you to all the supporters. Your solidarity matters, your voice matters, and we're here representing all of you. Thank you.
¿Qué queremos?
Justicia.
¿Cuándo?
Ahora.
¿Qué queremos?
Justicia.
¿Cuándo?
Ahora.
Uncage, reunify and heal.
Uncage, reunify and heal.
Uncage, reunify and heal.
Uncage, reunify and heal.
So as we wrap up our press rally this morning, we want to remind all of the audience, thank you for everyone tuning in the Bay Area and across the country. We want to acknowledge our partners, our institutional partners once again. CARECEN San Francisco, CARECEN Washington D.C, Chicano Latina Foundation, Instituto Familiar de la Raza, Galería de la Raza, Latinx Racial Equity Project, Alianza Americas, Presente.org. Again, we are here just to remind us to demand that President Biden fulfill his promise, his campaign promise, because he himself said that the policy of separating children was a cruel policy and that he would end family separation. However, since he has taken office, because of Title 42 and the insistence on refusing to implement the nation's laws of asylum, the global right to migration and to seek refuge, more children have been separated. So Biden, time is up. Reunify the children now. Task force, time is up. Reunify the children now. And again, our demands, as we stand in solidarity with 12 million migrants seeking a pathway to permanency, regarding the children and their separation, is one, to abolish any form of human detention and family separation. Again, abolish any form of human detention and family separation as a result of being migrants or migrating. Reunify all children Not just zero tolerance policy, but all children separated from their families by the U.S. government policies. Heal the children and secure reparations to mitigate the lifelong trauma caused by this government's policies. And let's not get it twisted. This was a U.S. policy. This is the U.S. government. As we are out there, and again, we stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, because we as Central Americans, many of us who fled wars, understand the pain of war and the separation that comes from that. So as you take care of the Ukrainians, President Biden, who we stand in solidarity with, also take care of our children and our families. We are your neighbors. Finally, government and task force, do your job and be accountable. Be accountable to all of the organizations and communities working to receive migrants in our local cities, working for inclusion and working for due process so that migrants' rights are protected. And also, to learn more about our campaign, please follow us at CARECEN.org and Galeria La Raza, where you can connect to other organizations part of this movement and learn more about our efforts for the last 2 years. So again, we want to thank all of our partners here today, Washington Sisters and Brothers, Washington State Sister, and again, thank you for all the families and all of us who made the effort to come out to Washington, D.C. to deliver those postcards in person. So after this press rally, our task is to pack up those postcards and deliver them to the Department of Homeland Security, where the task force on the Reunification of Families is housed. We also will be emailing directly to the director of the task force today more than 5,000 signatures that were collected through the online petition. Thank you to all of you in the Bay Area and across the country who took the time to sign the petition, to add your voice, to demand justice for children and for migrants. Thank you very much, everyone.
Sí se puede, 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 sí se puede,
Sí se puede.
sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. ¡Arriba los niños!
Arriba los niños! And we see some kids over there. Hey, kids! Hey! We know we want to be free. We want all our children. Every child should be with their family. So, ya basta. Reunificación now.
Pues solo, si me puede contar un poco sobre su historia y por qué usted mencionó algo muy importante, que no se piensa en el daño que causa a los niños separados en los niños. Con este señor. Sí, le doy. Sí. Y me dice su nombre completo. ¿Vas a estar haciendo preguntas? Sí, yo lo voy a hacer. Gabriela Carlson.
Por ejemplo, ahora estamos pidiendo que a las 7 van a pagar, que ya a las 6 7 de la mañana, llegó a la 1 de la mañana. Entonces, esos muchachos quedaron esperando ahí la mayoría toda la noche. Pero como ellos les dijeron que le iban a ayudar, y se quedaron. Porque eso es lo que les está diciendo inmigración y los voluntarios allá en Texas. Hay que recordar que la mayoría de ciudades tienen recursos como Matado en El Paso, y ahí no ven los recursos porque les dicen no se suban a los buses. No están colaborando con el estado de Texas. Pero estamos hablando ciudades pequeñas, como Del Río, Eagle Pass. Y la verdad es que no tienen muchos recursos, dicen no, porque ¿qué es lo que pasa? Y yo creo que la gente más entiende lo que pasa en la frontera. Cuando lo suelta inmigración, hay organizaciones que les presta ayuda, pero rápidamente, ¿a dónde vas? Que conseguimos, si tienes boleto para comprarlo, sí, te conectas. Si no, ahí te dicen, te las arreglamos, y hoy en ciudades no hay nada. Entonces, si te ofrecen vaya, por ejemplo, tenemos dos experiencias de 2 personas ya que iban para Houston, pero no tenían dinero. Entonces, ¿qué le dijeron? Subite en el aeropuerto de Washington y ya te van a ayudar. Así como nos tienen, como no es coordinado, no es como que
Pero desde el principio ha sido un desastre, ahora pueden coordinar un poquito más.
porque tenemos personas que nos dicen información de cuando viene, pero no es como que el estado de Texas nos dice, les mandamos buses para llegar a esto, porque entonces podemos también planear un poquito más. O sea, ahorita estamos respondiendo a una locura y lo que uno no queremos dejar a la gente en la calle. Aunque al final si deciden quedar y no tienen dónde ir, es posible que terminen en la calle. No estamos como... No nos perdemos en eso.
¿No? De que las madres se están quejando. Hay una queja, aparentemente, alegación. Dice que muchos inmigrantes están diciendo de que los niños que están en centros de detención de la patrulla fronteriza no están obteniendo el cuidado médico requerido. Dicen serve rotten on or inedible food, comida que pasada, creo que puede ser la traducción. Dice que son abusados verbalmente y físicamente. Dice que CBP rutinamente viola lo que dice las órdenes de la corte. Estoy tratando de ver si hay un centro en particular. Yo voy a hablar con estas organizaciones. Esto es de... Estoy tratando de ver un poco más a ver si hay. Pero es un complaint, es algo argumentado aparentemente.
It will continue.
No es nuevo. Sí, no es nuevo porque no tienen la capacidad.
This is our last group photo.
¿Qué queremos?
¡Reunificación!
No los oigo. ¿Qué queremos?
¡Reunificación!
What do we want?
¡Reunification!
When do we want it?
¡Now!
When do we want it?
¡Now!
¿Cuándo?
¡Ahora!
¿Cuándo?
¡Ahora!
We have thousands of individually signed postcards, and they have the images, the beautiful images of the quilts. So these are the messages of love and hope for our children, and those reside in the hands of the task force. They're the ones who can make this happen. So we're leading our contingent, our caravana right now to go to Homeland Security where the task force is housed. And so we hope they will open their doors up to us. If not, we will stand in front of their doors and deliver the postcards to them.
And how many postcards, Olga?
The postcards that have been signed are
2,500.
2,500. Thank you. We just did our last count this morning. Again, these are individually signed postcards from the San Francisco Bay Area. So,
And the postcards are saying what?
the postcards say President Biden and the Interagency Task Force for the Reunification of the Families. It has been too long to keep these children separated. It is in your job title. It is in your job description to do the reunification of the families. So we're asking you to please do your job as you have promised to do. And you have been able to reunify 200 children. Let's get the other 1,200 reunified now.
And we also want to acknowledge KIND and ACLU and the organizations, the nonprofit organizations who have deployed community workers in Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador to seek out the families to support the reunification process. So we gotta really give props where props are due, because it's really KIND, the ACLU, and actually nonprofit organizations working for justice that have actually been the ones that have facilitated most of the reunifications to date. So shout out to KIND, shout out to ACLU, and all the community-based organizations in Central America working to help the families reunify.
And it's proof that the community organizations are ready and able to support, put the resources where they need to be, give the resources to the organizations that are able to do this work, and absolutely, and are grateful for the work of the organizations like KIND and ACLU. So, yeah.
And Caravan for the Children also has a petition, right? How many people have signed the petition?
Online, we have
Over 3,000. 4,000 online petition signers. Yeah.
Nice.
So those are voices that are here with us as well.
Nationally, from all over the country.
Right.
And you're going to deliver those to the Homeland Security office as
Those
well?
will be emailed today to the executive director of the task force.
Okay. ¿Y ustedes quiénes son? A ver, Larisa, empezando con Olga. Oh,
Larisa Dugan Cuadra, directora de CARECEN San Francisco. Larisa Dugan Cuadra, Executive Director of the Central American Resource Center in San Francisco, CARECEN.
Sí, Olga Talamante, co-chair of Caravan For The Children, also on the board of Chicana Latina Foundation.
Claudia Leon with the Latinx Racial Equity Project, representing here.
Gloria Romero, Executive Director of Instituto Familiar de la Raza, and also co-chair of the Caravan For The Children.
Rivera, Executive Director of Galería de la Raza, member of the Caravana por los Niños, and yes.
Well, thank you, ladies. This has been powerful.
And big shout out to the artists, to the songbirds, to Paola, to all the poets, all of the artists that helped put this beautiful artwork together. And shout out to all of our teams back at home who are holding it down, doing the work today on Monday, of responding to our communities every day. That's what we do. That's why we were born, and we will continue to do that hasta que se llegue el día de la justicia para el migrante en este país.
Oh.
Adelante.
Gracias.